What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris Mann. I am here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. My name is Chris Drummond. I am a freelance sports reporter based out of upstate New York here and proprietor of this podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder, where I bring individuals on to talk about their why and get to know them outside of their occupation. I got a very, very special guest that's going to be on with me today. She is a CBS Sports Analyst, and she also was the first ever female to be a CEO of an NFL football team. Her name is Amy Trask, and we're going to talk to her about her why of getting into sports. We're also going to talk to her about her podcast. We're also going to talk to her about some of the books that she's written. To say the least, this is somebody who is definitely well known, no question about it. And it is an honor and a privilege for me to interview her and talk to her on my podcast. So, Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I am honored and delighted to join you, and I appreciate your patience as I tried to figure out how to log in. So, thank you very much.
Well, listen, I appreciate you. No question about that. I really admire you from afar. There's no question about that. And my first question to you is the same as it always is with everybody that hops on this podcast, Amy, and that is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do? Did you have any role models, any inspirations growing up in the Los Angeles area? But ultimately, what is your why of getting into sports, journalism, and just all of that?
A tremendous number of role models, beginning with my parents. And I was raised in a manner that is described by the adage, it takes a village. I
Mhm.
really was raised in a village where all the parents acted as parents to all the kids, whether they were their children or not.
Right.
Um, and I did have parents who were tremendous role models. And I'm often asked about serving as a mentor or being a mentor. And what I respond in that regard is, sure, happy to help. But why just pick one role model? Why just pick one mentor? Look to everyone you possibly can for any bits of wisdom or advice or knowledge you can. You don't need to limit that to one person. And I share that because any number of role models and just terrific people as I grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. I also second that. My parents are definitely role models of mine, but I also have role models in the industry that I look to as well as mentors as well. So I totally understand that. You went to two different universities, UC Berkeley, if I'm not mistaken, for undergrad, and you went to University of Southern California as well. I would like to know, were you dead set on going on those two universities, or were there any other universities that could have persuaded you from going there?
Well, you're absolutely right. I went to my undergraduate degree is from Cal Berkeley, go
Mhm.
Bears, and my
Right.
law degree is from USC. When I was getting ready to, at that point in high school where you apply to college, my parents said it's got to be a UC, it's got to be a state school. That's what we were able to do.
Hmm.
And by the way, let me put a footnote in on that. When it comes to the cost of education nowadays, when I graduated from Berkeley,
Hmm.
and maybe this is a signal of how old I am, my senior year tuition, we were on the quarter system, and tuition each quarter was roughly $250, meaning my senior year at Berkeley, tuition was less than $1,000. Now, mind you, we were just all up in arms, so to speak, euphemistically, of course, because when I
Right.
started college, tuition was roughly $57 a quarter. And
Wow.
this is my moment. This is my moment to say, you know what, if someone wants to go to a private school, to a fancy private school, and assume some, significant expense for that, fair enough. But here's to our state schools being affordable for everyone. And they certainly were affordable when I was a kid. And so my parents said, pick which you see. And then I said, well, I want to go to Berkeley. And my dad said, no, you're going to go to UCLA and you're going to live at home. And I said, oh, no, I'm going away to school. And that was quite the back and forth. I did graduate as an undergrad from Berkeley. And then
Hmm.
when it was time for law school, I went to USC. I was ready to come back down home to Southern California, and USC made a very persuasive argument at the time. Its undergrad at that time was not as well regarded, well reputed, as not as terrific as it is now.
Right.
So the grad school said, look, when you're applying here for grad school, just don't think about our undergrad, think about our graduate programs. And I got a phenomenal legal education at USC.
Oh wow. Listen, you for a price of tuition like that, that's amazing. I mean, you can't even get two credits for $1,000 nowadays, let alone a full tuition quarter. You know what I mean? So I totally
Yep, senior
understand that.
year. Senior year, less than $1,000. Let's do that again, people.
I know that's right. Please make education affordable, because that would be amazing for sure. I just got my master's too, Amy, and I'll be walking actually in December. I got my master's in professional writing. I got my undergrad in journalism. I went to school actually at Kennesaw State University, where I both got my um, bachelor's and my master's degree, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. So I totally understand you on that. Growing up,
Well,
I also, oh, go ahead.
excuse me 1 minute, because I want to say I was aware that you went to Kennesaw, and I think it's terrific that you studied journalism because boy, oh boy, do we need true journalism again today. I
Right.
was not aware that you were walking, and I'm glad that you're walking. Enjoy that moment.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. I really had no choice in the matter. As my mama told me, you're walking. I said, yes, ma'am. And I said, okay, I'll get the tickets, and there we go. So, um, that will happen in December sometime. I also wanted to reach out to you because I'm from Southern California as well. I'm from San Diego. So I grew up a lifelong Chargers fan. LT is my favorite player, but I grew up very young when the Chargers went to the Super Bowl back in '95 and just got obliterated by the 49ers, that Bay Area team up there. And we haven't been back since. I gotta know, how did you, because as the NFL knows, you're NFL 100 as far as one of the game changers, labeled as one of the game changers in the NFL. How did that role of being a CEO for the Oakland Raiders come about? Because you was that from 1997 to 2013. How did that role come about? And talk to me about your time being in that role.
Well, I'm going to answer you, of course, but before that, I will say I'm smiling ear to ear at your references to San Diego. I love anything along the California coast, and I'm
Hmm.
particularly passionate about the Southern California coast. So
Hmm.
here's to our Southern California coast. As is said, West Coast, best coast.
Hello.
And notwithstanding that the Raiders and the Chargers were divisional, are still, but during my
Hmm.
years, I use the past tense, were divisional rivals.
Right.
That's really poorly stated. And I'm speaking to a journalist and one with a master's, and I just did horrible grammar. So let me try that again. The Raiders and the Chargers are divisional rivals. During my years in the league, we were divisional rivals.
Right.
But we had a tremendous working relationship. Shortly after I joined the league, Alex Spanos purchased the Chargers, and boy, oh boy, did I love working with Alex and Dean, and just a terrific relationship. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is that teams, rivals on the field, rivals on game day, but colleagues on other days. So I digress about San Diego, but West Coast, best coast, and let me know when you're back out this way. As to my career, I was at graduate school, in law school at USC, and I was a first year student sitting on the couches in the front of the school, listening to second and third year students talk about internships and externships. I'd never even heard the word externship before, but I thought this sounds pretty interesting.
Right.
Picked up the phone. Now, I loved the Raiders before I became an intern. That was my team for reasons I'm happy to share, but that was my team. And the year I moved back home to Los Angeles from Berkeley, where I was in school, was the
Hmm.
year the Raiders ultimately came to Los Angeles. They had tried to come a couple years before, but been ordered back by the court as part of the
Oh
litigation.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
by the way, whenever I reference that litigation, I turn into a 7-year-old and say, Mom, they started it because the NFL sued the Raiders. The Raiders didn't sue the NFL,
Right.
but the Raiders had been ordered back. And the year I came back down from Berkeley back home to start grad school was the year the team ultimately moved down here. So I'm listening to this discussion about internships, externships, and I picked up the phone and I called the Raiders and I said, I'd like to be an intern. And the woman who answered the phone Because, yes, kids, back in those days, there were landlines and there were people who answered the landlines. She put me through to someone and he said, what's an intern? I said, I want to be an intern. What's an intern? And I said, well, I'll work for you and you won't pay me. And of course, back in those days, interns weren't paid. They are now. But I
Right.
said, I'll work for you. You won't pay me. And he said, come on down. And that's how I started my career with the Raiders as an intern.
Wow. Wow. So that transition, because I believe you started an intern in the late '80s, if I'm not mistaken, as an
Mid
intern.
80s,
Mid
actually, like
'80s.
right around 83, right around 83.
Okay, so that was the year that the Raiders won the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. Was '83.
You're
If
not
I'm not
mistaken.
mistaken. Yeah, absolutely, which is amazing. So how did the role of CEO get attached to you in '97 when you started out? Because you said it back in '83. That's about what 14 years before you stepped into the role of CEO. I would love to know that story of how that came about.
I don't know that there's any one particular reason. I
Hmm.
worked hard. I worked as hard as I could. When I thought I couldn't work any harder, I found a way to work harder.
Hmm.
And I contributed in any way I could. It never ceased to amaze me and annoy me when throughout my years with the team, you'd hear people discussing players on the field.
Hmm.
Wow, that left tackle was really struggling and the guard didn't slide over and help him. Or, wow, that corner just couldn't cover that guy and the safety didn't come across to help.
Hmm.
And yet they would then say, perhaps walking into my office, I finished everything I need to do today and I'm heading out and taking the rest of the day. And I would look at them and say, oh, okay, I gotcha. But did you go into the community affairs department? They're stuffing 500 gift bags for kids. Did you offer to help? Wow, the ticket office has just umpteen will call envelopes to get ready. Did you offer to
Right.
help?
Right.
And my point was this: if you're going to criticize those who are on the field for not being teammates, why are you not being a teammate? And the reason I share all of that with you is when I joined as an intern, and then ultimately when I joined as a full time employee, I helped in any way I could.
Hmm.
If the ticket office was alphabetizing will call envelopes, I'd walk in and say, can I alphabetize them for us? If the player personnel department was filing things and getting things organized to go to the combine, hey, can I help you file those? Can I help you organize those? Wherever anyone needed help, I offered to help because that's what you do when you're part of an organization. That's what you do when you're part of a team. And, someone at one point said to me, Amy, if Al Davis learns you're going into all these different departments, you're going into the ticket office and helping, you're going into the personnel department and helping, you're going into all these departments and you're trying to do things, he's not going to like that. I didn't say anything, but
Right.
shortly thereafter, and this is at the very, very, very beginning of my career, I'm
Right.
walking up the stairs and he's walking down the stairs and we stop on the same stair at the same moment. And he looks at me and says, how are we doing on ticket sales? And it was at that moment I realized that not only did he know that I was going into all the different departments and learning about what was going on and helping in all the departments, saying that to me was his way of encouraging me to continue to do that.
You might
So
have.
that's what I did. I tried to help in any way I could, and my career took off in that manner. Did I lose you? Did I lose you? Hello? Did I lose you?
We, hey Amy, this is Chris again, back here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. I did lose you. You said Al Davis, and after that, you cut out.
Oh my gosh, do you think that was like a sign from karma or something? No, of course it wasn't. I don't know why we got just I looked down at my phone and everything was fine. Um,
Right.
okay, so what I was explaining was I was walking into all these different departments and trying to help, offering to help, doing anything I could to help. And please, if I'm repeating anything I said, I know you'll edit it out.
Yeah.
Uh, but a few people on staff said to me, Amy, if Al Davis learns you're going into all these different departments, he's not going to like it. I didn't say anything, but I kept doing what I was doing, offering to help
Hmm.
in any way I could. So
Hmm.
one day I'm walking up the stairs in the building and he's walking down the stairs and we stop on the very, very same stair. And he looks at me and says, where are we on ticket sales? Meaning for the game that was that weekend.
Right.
And that told me that not only, well, that told me that he knew what I was doing. He knew that I was going into the ticket office and the personnel department and all the other departments. And that was his way of encouraging me to do so. And what I learned at that moment was he had no problem with me learning everything I could about the organization and helping in any way I could. But I better know the answer when there was a question.
Absolutely. No question about that. And I love that you broke that down too. Now, mind you, I have to give a little context to me growing up because I told you I'm from San Diego. So it was Chargers all the way around the whole city. But whenever the Raiders came to town, there would always be some kind of brawl or fight or different things going on in the stands because Raiders was heavily taking over Qualcomm Stadium. At first, it was Jack Murphy Stadium, if you remember that, where the Chargers and the Padres played. Both of them played. So, and I've had a chance to go to the Black Hole as well. They're vicious down there. There's no question
No,
about
no, 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 no. Just, I'll let you finish, but I am going to have the
that.
back of Raider fans forever. And yes, I do remember Jack Murphy. But go on, and then, Your Honor, I would like to offer a rebuttal.
You certainly can. Listen, you certainly can. I'm going to say this. They were vicious in my time that I went there. And I went there twice. I didn't go there a lot of times because obviously the Raiders and Chargers played each other twice. I would go to the San Diego one. But I have to say this, Amy, and please do not hate me for saying this. One of the greatest joys was when the Raiders came to the Super Bowl and played against Tampa.
Oh,
And that
my.
was
Oh,
just, that was.
I,
That was one of the greatest
okay, okay.
joys
I,
of my life, for sure.
New phone, who dis? I don't hear you. Where'd you go? I think we've been disconnected again. And if you could see me now, and I'm glad you count, thank you for letting me do this off camera. I am sticking my tongue out at you and maybe
I
making
know
another
it.
couple gestures. But let me speak to, and you know what? We lost the game. I cried myself to sleep that night.
Hmm.
Boy,
Hmm.
I really am going to stick my tongue out at you for raising that. As to the Raider fans, I will share with you that when I'm asked, what is sort of my proudest moment with the Raiders, or what do I
Hmm.
consider one of my nicest accomplishments, one of the things about which I feel best is working to make clear who Raider fans really are and to clear the reputation of Raider fans. Were there a handful of fans in our stadium who didn't behave appropriately? Of course. And that's the
Yeah.
case in every stadium, every
Yes.
team throughout the league. But here we were, and the black hole, and I love them, and I still love them. The reputation was that it wasn't safe to come to our stadium. And I knew that it was only a handful of fans who weren't behaving appropriately. And again, that's the case for every team in every stadium. So I gathered our fans together. I held fan meetings. I brought the fans to our offices. I met with the fans. And by the way, every time I did, there was ice cream. I served ice cream a lot.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I will tell you that when I set out to fix, to address, to clarify who Raider fans really were and to change the reputation, my biggest allies in doing that were Raider fans because they did not like the reputation that was being caused by a few unruly fans. And we made clear you can come to our stadium dressed in the colors of another team. You will be safe. Your children will be safe. We are
Hmm.
all going to root for our teams in good spirit as good sports. And we let the handful of fans who were behaving poorly know that was not okay. And we
Right.
cleared things up. And I just love the fans for working with me on that. And I still can't believe you just referenced that Super Bowl.
I was living right across the street from Qualcomm Stadium. And that's where I was living. And, that particular year, I just remember there was so many Raiders fans and I had went to, the NFL has an experience, obviously, every single year that you
Mm-hmm.
can go to. And I went to the NFL experience that year. And it was amazing because we had just had a Super Bowl in 97 with Green Bay and Denver. So to have
I
another
remember
Super
that.
Bowl 5 years later was just amazing. Now, I will say this before I get to the next question. The Raider fans are very passionate about their team. There's
Mm-hmm.
no question about that. And I love the Raiders fans for being as passionate as they are about their team. And they root hard no matter win or loss. Very similar to what the Cleveland Brown fans are when you talk about the dog pound. Very passionate fans. that root for their team. So I do respect the Raiders in that aspect, for sure. I just grew up as a lifelong Charger fan and always was taught to be like, if there was one team to dislike, it was the Raiders, for sure.
By the way, speaking of your Chargers,
Mhm.
a number of years ago, when it was the draft in which Justin Herbert was drafted,
Yep.
on CBS Sports Network, we did a show, and we were
Hmm.
asked to each identify for a particular team. We were each assigned a team and who they should draft and all of that. And I said to the Chargers, "Go get Justin Herbert." And I talked about how good a quarterback he was and would be. In college, he was never used in a manner that best positioned him to be his best until a ball game where they used
Right.
him in a manner that really just sort of it was best positioning him to be his best, as I said, which
Right.
is what the best coaches do. I think you have a
Right.
terrific quarterback.
Yep.
I like Jim Harbaugh as a coach. By the way, Jim Harbaugh was with us in the Raiders.
He was. He
He
was.
was,
You know.
and I'll tell you a great story.
Go ahead.
Al Davis really liked Jim, as did I, by the way. I loved working with Jim. He's terrific, and Al loved working with Jim. And when Jim had the opportunity to leave the Raiders and go be the head coach at University of San Diego,
Hmm.
he went in to talk to Al and to make, he was concerned, or my impression was Jim was concerned. He didn't want any ill will or didn't want to leave in a manner that, would not be understood by Al. So he went in and had a nice conversation with him, and Al wished him all the best and told him he wanted nothing but the best for Jim and wished him success and all of that. And then Jim says, Al, I'm kind of following in your footsteps because you left to go to college and I'm leaving to go to college. And Al looks at him and said, I went to USC. You're going to USD. It was just a great moment, and I laugh when I think about it.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you for telling that story, Amy. That is amazing. Now, I want to get into this because you did write a couple of books. One of the books that I know off the top is You Negotiate Like a Girl. Where did that title come from? And where did the inspiration come from to writing not just that book, but your second book that you wrote, I
Um,
believe, in 2016?
I have not yet written a second book,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think this might suggest that you have extrasensory perception or we're exchanging brainwaves because I am working on a children's book right now. And my next book will be a children's book. But
Okay.
as to You Negotiate Like a Girl, um, I wrote the book. I just wrote chapter after chapter. It was like I was just spewing words out. And
Hmm.
I just was sharing everything I could, and I love to write. And then I realized, you know what, Amy, you've never written a book before, and you need help from someone who really knows what they're doing. So I
Right.
contacted Mike Freeman, who I'm sure you know or know of, and I
Hmm.
said, will you help me? And Mike said he'd be glad to. And we collaborated on the book. He helped me figure out how to do chapters. And he just contributed tremendously to that, which I had just spewed out in a gabillion words.
Hmm.
And one of the stories I shared in the book was when someone said to me, you negotiate like a girl. I had originally thought of another title for the book, and frankly, it was kind of boring. And Mike is the one who said to me, it should be called You Negotiate Like a Girl. And he was
Oh,
right.
okay. Okay, all right. I'm definitely intrigued by that for sure because I do not have that book, but I definitely would love to get that book because I'm always willing to read something new. I love reading different kind of books, and Amy, I really would love to get that book. So where can people go and get that if they haven't gotten a chance to get the book yet?
I love reading as well. It is
Mhm.
on Amazon.
Amazon. Okay, all right. I would definitely take a look and see about getting that book for sure. No question. Now, I want to ask this next question as well, and that is about your day-to-day operations, right? And I know you do CBS and you're kind of a sports analyst, but I want to, obviously it's changed. Your roles have changed, but particularly now, Amy, what is your day-to-day operations of getting ready to, do what you do as far as the occupation goes? Obviously we have football Thursday, we have football Sunday and Monday, but we have 4 other days though. So talk to me about your weekly operations of what you do.
Well, the fun part is every single day is different, every single week is different. You are right. During football season, we have Thursday football, sometimes there's Saturday football, there's Sunday football, there's Monday football. We have football all the time.
Hmm.
Now, with the pivot from cable and various broadcast manners of broadcasting to streaming, I'm now on CBS Sports HQ, which is the CBS Sports streaming platform. And I'm having a lot of fun doing hits on HQ. We talk about whatever topics feel good that week. So I'm on CBS Sports HQ. I'm also writing a children's book, and I'm involved in any number of different things, board of directors, teaching classes, but every
Mm.
week is different, and I love that.
I love that because I do believe you're on the Shrine Board, if
Uh
I'm not
huh.
mistaken, and
That
the
is one of them.
LASEC,
That is
LASEC.
another one of them. Good. Yeah, boy,
Yeah.
you have done your homework. Yes. I'm on the advisory board of the LA Sports and Entertainment Commission, and boy,
Hmm.
oh boy, are we going to be busy in Los Angeles. We've got the World Cup coming, we've
Yep.
got the Super Bowl coming back,
Yep.
we've
Yep.
got the Olympics coming back. So
Yep.
we've got a lot of sports coming to Los Angeles over the next few years. And of course, the Shrine Bowl is something about which I'm very passionate. Not only the Shrine Bowl and all it does for the athletes, but of course what Shriners Hospital does. And
Absolutely.
that's very special as well.
Well, they got a great one in you, representing them. There's no question about that. Listen. It's not an understatement by saying you're absolutely amazing. I mean, it might be an understatement, but I do feel that you're absolutely amazing, Amy. I really do.
Well, you are very kind and very generous, and some would tell you a little bit nutty, but I appreciate the tremendous compliment. Thank you.
Well, listen. You have to be a little nutty to, be great. In my opinion, I think you got to be a little bit off
I
kilter
love
just to
that.
be great. Yeah, you got
I
to be a
love
little nutty
that.
for
And
sure.
you know what? Here's to being different.
Hmm.
If there's any I'll say kids, but if there's any young people listening to this, and by young, I really am saying kids, if there's any preteens or teenagers, you know what? If you're the one who's labeled a dork or a geek or a nerd or a weirdo, and by the way, I was all of those things, you know what? That's okay. Embrace it. It's okay to be a dork. It's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to be a weirdo. Whatever someone may label you, embrace it and just be you.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Yeah, not to mention, yeah, you mentioned all those sports coming to Los Angeles, but also the NBA All-Star game is coming there
Oh
as
my
well.
gosh. Yeah,
It's
oh
coming
my,
there as
how
well.
could, I'm sorry, NBA. Oh, and my gosh, talk about forgetting to talk about basketball. How dare I do that? I'm also involved with the Big Three. That is a three on
Mhm.
three basketball league that
Yep.
Cube and his longtime, magnificent business partner, Jeff Quantinitz,
Yep.
put together. And we are, year one, oh, it won't last. It won't succeed. New
Hmm.
leagues never last. They never
Right.
succeed. Well, let me tell
Right.
you something. Cube and Jeff, I'll use an Al Davis word. They are indefatigable, and we're almost a decade in.
Absolutely. And listen, I've been to a Big Three event. When I lived down in Atlanta, Georgia, I definitely went to a Big Three event. You guys put on great events. It's a great time. If people haven't checked it out, they hopefully, if it's coming to a city near you, you should definitely check it out for sure. No question. If you guys do come up here to the New York area, that would be upstate New York area, I should say. That would be amazing and great too. But
And
um,
if we come near you, you've got to come back and we'll have some fun.
oh yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say because I plan on being out at the Super Bowl.
Oh, good.
This next February. I'm hoping that you and I can connect there. February 2nd is actually my birthday, which is opening night of the Super Bowl. So I'm definitely going to be there on the field, working, but also celebrating my birthday as well. So
We'll,
I'm
we'll
looking
have to
forward to
see if
that.
we can wrap some ice cream into that.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing, Amy. There's no question about that. And this is a great segue because now I want to ask you about mental health and work-life balance. And the reason why I want to ask you about this is because not just in sports as an occupation or journalism, but in all occupations, right? People have problems dealing with mental health. They have mental health breakdowns, but it's also work-life balance. Sometimes the work-life balance is can't get right, and there's people that have stepped away from the sports industry, the journalism industry, and multiple other industries because they just can't get it right. My opinion, I don't think you'll ever get it 100% because it's very difficult to do. Everybody's schedule is different. Everybody's cards is dealt differently. I want to know, how do you keep your mental health strong and still have that work-life balance? Because Amy, you seem like a wonderful woman to be around. I certainly wouldn't mind having a beverage with you watching some football. And I'm sure your friends will say the same thing and families will say the same thing too. But you work extremely hard as well and very passionate about what you do. So how do you keep that balance without experiencing things like burnout?
My view on the quote work-life balance quote close quote issue is that everybody has to decide what is best, what works best, how they wish to navigate it. Now, I will quickly note that some people don't have the luxury of finding the balance or achieving the balance they may not want. If you're a single parent raising multiple children and you're holding down two or three jobs to do that, you may not have, you probably don't have the luxury to balance things as you may wish to do so. But if
Mhm.
you are able to look for the balance that works for you, just remember, what works for you is up to you. Don't let other people tell you how you should balance your life. I bristle when people have said to me, Amy, you need to look at work-life balance. My response is, that's, excuse me, 1 second, I may sneeze.
That's
Okay, now that
okay.
I'm thinking about sneezing, I'm not going to sneeze. When
Right.
people have said to me, wow, you really need to take a look at work-life balance, my response is, you know what? I'll figure out with my husband what balance I want, or what
Hmm.
balance I hope to have, or what balance works for me. It's not up to any one person to tell another person or to judge another person on how he or she chooses to balance. And again, I get it. Not everyone has the luxury of achieving a balance that is desired. But
Right.
if you have the ability to achieve a balance, that balance is up to you. It's not up to anyone else to judge you for how you choose to balance. There have been times of my life where there has been absolutely no balance whatsoever, unless you consider the scale with one hand as high as you can and one as low as you can to be balanced. And of course, that's not a balance. But
Right.
that's what I wanted. So let's not judge others on how they balance things. As to mental health, what I find works for me is having a trusted person in my life, and in my life, that's my husband, with whom
Hmm.
I can discuss absolutely anything. So I hope for others that they have that trusted person. And if not, they can seek help or assistance in whatever manner they choose to. There's no shame in raising your hand and saying, I need some help.
Mm, absolutely. But it was looked upon as that before, Amy. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck. Like a while ago, people was looking at like, man, mental health was never really talked about. Mental health breakdowns wasn't talked about, and they was looked at as like a person is weak, and for being able to ask for help, or talking about how their mental is not right. And I'm happy that that is not the stigma anymore, because to me, I don't know how you can be able to be in this industry and not have somebody trusted to talk to. You got to. Everybody has those dog days, in my opinion.
Well, you're absolutely right. It was not many years ago that it was not talked about.
Hmm.
Um, it is, and you're absolutely right in both respects. One, that it wasn't discussed, and that wasn't all that many years ago. And
Hmm.
two, that it is a tremendous step in the right direction, that it is now an accepted topic of conversation. One of the things we did in the Big Three, our very, very first season, was
Hmm.
establish a mental health platform and make the mental health of our athletes a priority, and
Mm.
also position them where they could discuss these issues. And we promoted that on various platforms to help others, athletes and non-athletes, understand that there is no shame in discussing mental health issues, and there is no shame in saying, I need some help. And there is no shame in asking for help. So that was a platform we advanced our very first year of the Big Three, and we continue to advance.
I love that. I love hearing that. And like I said, the Big Three is tremendous. There's no question about that. I'm a huge fan of it. Watch it a lot. I've been to it before. So yeah, huge supporter of that and huge supporter of you
Well,
as
thank
well.
you.
Um, what's the football is your podcast, I believe that you are doing. And I want to know the origins about that. I want to know the origins of how that got started. How many podcasts do you typically do a week? How many, what do you talk about? And what's the football? Do you have a co-host and stuff like that?
Well,
Talk to me about that.
we ha- I will. I will tell you that we are not doing what the football this season due to a
Mm,
scheduling conflict.
mm,
No other reason. We had a scheduling conflict that simply couldn't be worked out. But we
okay.
did it for a full 2 seasons. I did that with Susie Schuster.
Mm,
We did it in the Rich Eisen studio. And it was a fun, relaxed conversation. I don't remember how what the football, although we do know what WTF also stands for. I don't
yes, you do.
remember how we settled upon WTF, but I kind of like WTF. But it was just a relaxed, fun conversation with terrific, terrific, just tremendous guests. And I love doing it. And we're taking a hiatus at least for a season, again, simply due to scheduling concerns. But that
Mm,
was the first time I'd ever really, other than, oh, no, it was the absolute first time I'd ever been on a podcast in a host position, other than being a guest.
I love that. And I cannot wait till you restart that because I would love to be able to listen to some new content of you two ladies talking football. Me personally, I'm a huge advocate about women being in sports, also women advocating their opinions in football. I think it pushes the game even further. I think it pushes our media even further. But you do hear some of the stigmas sometimes, Amy, that, women that shouldn't be talking about football because they haven't played, or you do hear some of the inequalities as far as women sports reporters go, as far as pay, maybe opportunities and treatment at times. There have been times that I've been in this industry, and mind you, I've only been in it for about 8 years, but I've done section championships, I've done state championships on a local level where you don't see a lot of women, and you definitely don't see a lot of women of ethnic color. I would love to get your perspective if you have any. What do you think when I ask you the question of about inequalities of women's sports reporting as far as paid treatment and opportunities go?
Well, whenever I hear someone say of a woman, she shouldn't be reporting on, or she shouldn't be covering football or basketball or whatever the sport is because she's never played, my immediate thought was, oh, so then anyone who hasn't gone to the moon or the International Space Station or been on a space shuttle shouldn't report on anything having to do with that
Space.
which we are doing in space, whether it's a space station or moon landings. Or so if you
Right.
haven't been to the moon, you shouldn't be reporting on a moon landing. Or wait a minute, if you haven't been in the White House as a president, you shouldn't be covering the White House. Or if you haven't been a senator or a congressman, you shouldn't be covering politics. Or if you haven't been a farmer, you shouldn't be covering farming. I mean, it's just when you take someone saying to a woman or of a woman, she hasn't played, she shouldn't cover sports,
Mm-hmm.
extrapolate that out.
Mm.
Oh, you haven't actually fought in a war, you shouldn't cover a war. And by the way, how many men are covering sports that haven't played sports? You
Me.
don't need you don't need to have been a participant in a moon landing or on a football team or working in a agricultural industry in order to cover those subjects. You
Mhm.
need to do your work, you need to do your homework, you need to be prepared, and you need to be a good journalist or a good reporter, period. End of story.
I love that. I do. I had to get your perspective on that for sure. And I got two more for you before I let you get up out of here. This next one here is about advice. It's a two-part question, Amy. The first part is, what kind of advice would you give someone, an individual that wants to be in the sports business, whether they want to be an analyst, whether they want to be a journalist, or whatever kind of occupational role that they want to be? What kind of advice would you give them? But also, the second part is, what kind of advice has someone gave you that you hold on dearly to?
May I do them in reverse order?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay. The very, very, very best advice I've ever received in my life, my whole entire life, was from my mother, who told me when I was very, very little girl, to
Mhm.
thine own self be true. And she told me that over and over and over again as I grew up. And even once I had grown up, she told me that. It is the best advice I've ever received.
Mm.
To thine own self be true. And I will admit to you that which I've admitted to others. It wasn't until I was in college that I learned that it was Shakespeare who said that, and that my
Right.
mother was simply quoting Shakespeare. I thought she had made that up, but it is the best advice I've ever received. As to the other part of your question, what I would say to anyone wanting to do that which you explained, that which you shared, one, get your foot in the door however you can, and then work as hard as you can. There's that saying, don't work, work smart, not hard. Well, first of
Yep.
all, what does that even mean? I mean, who wants to work dumb? Of course you want to work smart. But you know what? You also want, and I'm being somewhat silly because my point is work hard. Hard work really, really matters. You
Yeah.
know, that's something my parents instilled in me as well. So I would say to people who want to get into the industry, into the jobs you described, get your foot in the door however you can, and then work as hard as you can. And you know what? When you think you can't work any harder, find a way to work harder because hard work really matters.
I love that. I love that. Best coast is the West Coast. No question about that. I'm gonna get you out of here on these three favorite questions, Amy, that I want you to ask. And the first favorite that I have is favorite meal that you like to cook.
Okay, I don't cook. I really
Oh.
don't cook. And it's funny. I find cooking to be one of the most stressful things. And, my girlfriend once said to me, my best girlfriend, wait a minute, you find cooking to be stressful, but you worked for Al Davis for 30 years? I
Mm.
just don't like to cook. Once I caught the oven or the stove or whatever you call that thing, I caught the stove on fire. No, the oven. I caught the oven on fire once. So what's my favorite meal to make? An ice cream sundae.
Okay. I feel you on that. Let me flip it. What's your favorite meal to eat?
An ice cream sundae.
Oh, so same way. Okay, ice cream
Yeah,
sundae. I'm with you on that.
ice cream
All right.
sundae.
Okay. Favorite concert you've ever attended?
Oh, okay. Wow. Of course, I've been to Cube's concerts, and he is, well,
Mm.
he's a magnificent, magnificent artist. He's an even more magnificent businessman and an even more magnificent human being. Um, Boy, I loved Hammer. I went to the Too Legit to Quit concert right when Hammer started that whole Too Legit to Quit concert series up. Loved it. One of my favorite ever. I would say I'd put Hammer and Cube as my favorites.
You know how hard it is to make me blush with this pigmentation, Amy. You about to make me blush. Would you say that? Oh my goodness, that is what's up. I like that. I like that. Um, last of the favorites. Favorite place you like to eat out at?
Ooh, that's an interesting one because I am not a big eat out girl. Okay, I'm a vegetarian. So I like
Mm.
to go to restaurants that have plenty of things for me to eat. Salads, vegetables. I'm just, oh, okay. And my favorite kind of food, I will tell you this, hands down, unequivocally, if I could only have one kind of food for the rest of my life other than
Mhm.
ice cream, it would be Mexican food.
Girl, you on point like a period. That's what I would say. I would definitely say that. No question about that. And listen, this has been an excellent conversation with you, Amy, talking about your why and getting to know you and your story. You gave great advice and just running through your backgrounds and different stories as well. I look forward to seeing you in person. Hopefully, we can cross paths sooner than later. But thank you for coming on to my podcast, and you have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Well, thank you for having me. And you took the words right out of my mouth because I hope to see you when you're in Los Angeles, West Coast, Best Coast.
Absolutely. You take care and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and your week.
Thank you, you as well.